Hi, welcome to another Coven Conversation with Cosmic Creator Summer Holm. Summer is my best friend from college, eternal even star. She's in advertising, a writer, just the funniest person I know. No pressure.
I'm going to be the least funniest person now.
Yeah, so we're talking about transcending cycles through transformation of consciousness, and in particular, I would say the power of words and laughter. And Summer keeps this me a little bit more grounded in the well, you let me be as magical as I want,
yeah,
but reminding me.
Yeah, I'll call you when you get too magical. It's just a little much.
Hi.
Yeah, I'll pull her back.
Is there any other things you want me to add to your introduction?
No. I'm just fabulous. It's just that is it. That's it.
So we've been friends since college, but I feel like our friendship became a soulship.
For sure.
These past couple years.
For sure.
I don't know why it was that, well, you reached out organically to me when I was in the midst of like my long dark night of the soul, and it was just starting. And I find it really interesting because we'd always been connected, but we hadn't talked, like we weren't talking like every day or like that level of frequency, but it was like you knew to reach out, and then you were one of the first people I really confided into what was like happening in my life, and you started Marco Poloing me every single day. So we have like a 2.5 year span of like daily polos, chronicling
sometimes more than like 2 or 3 a day. Yeah.
Chronicling this whole journey that both of us have gone on, and we've been beautiful mirrors for each other in that way as well. And I would save your polos and sometimes just watch them in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, because they always made me laugh, even at like the darkest shit. Like the darkest shit we would be laughing about, like hysterically. Yeah. Like I'd be in so much emotional pain and be laughing about it with you.
I know.
And I'm like,
I would make jokes and I was like, this is not appropriate, but I'm just gonna make this joke. And then she would like, it was good. Like it was a good thing. We were both laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember what you said to me, though, that was so fundamental, was, Jordan, go back and haunt your 19-year-old self. Haunt the ghost of your 19-year-old self. And that became kind of the fundamental way I started to recreate my life, was, what would 19-year-old Jordan do? Like, how would she go about organize her day? No, well, I mean, I'm already organized, but like, how would she go about her day? What would she would do in her day? And I started to really connect to that pure identity that I had when I was 19. Because when you're 19, you don't know fucking shit.
Which is amazing. You feel so free. And you don't think, and you just do.
Well, and that was our mantra when we were 19. We don't think, we just do.
And we believed we believed we deserved everything.
And we also held the mantra, we always get what we want. And and that's actually been a mantra that I've started to incorporate for myself. Yeah. I always get exactly what I want, exactly as I am, here and now. And when you start to hold that belief for yourself, things will start to shift instantly.
It was before life like cut that belief off at the neck. Like back then, like life hadn't like told us otherwise, you know. And so reprogramming ourselves to get back to that, to like just purging ourselves from what the world has told us, that we don't deserve it, that we can't do anything we want, but we can, and we're adults now and we can afford to, so we should.
I think one of the things I love too is like the power of like some of the words that you would tell me. And you sent me that bracelet that says like, and still I rise. Yeah. And you sent me the poem, and I have it framed over.
One of the best ever.
Yeah, about like, and still I rise. Like no matter what is going on, that continual idea of being able to rise no matter what the circumstances or the situation or how much bullshit was going on. You just reminded me, like, still I rise, still I rise. And
Maya Angelou, go read it.
And I feel like you held so much space for me and witnessed so much vulnerability and intimacy, and in a way, because you weren't here physically, you were like, we were virtually, I feel like I could talk to you in some of the most intimate moments, because, and it was the Marco Polos became a container for that, because I could polo you in like the middle of the night, or polo you from my car when I just experienced something that like was really disheartening for me. And so in that way, the phone is a medium. It's of telepathy. It's the embodiment of telepathy. It's the way to use telepathy. So I could create this embodiment channel for telepathy to be able to talk to you through like Marco Polo and those kind of things. And I hope vice versa. There have been moments when like you've been poloing me and like it's like lights off in the dark bed and you're like, you know, in a very vulnerable situation.
Oh,
and we're just talking to each other and holding space for each other like that.
I think you talked about how like we were friends in college, like 19, 20, 21, but then like we didn't really establish like a soulship. But I think what happened was just we got vulnerable quick. Like you were just like, here's everything that happened, and it was like, okay, like let's like do this, like let's handle this together. Like I want to be there with you and help you. And then as through watching you be vulnerable and just share everything, I wanted to be vulnerable and share everything with you. And it was just this instant establishment of first, just let's be vulnerable as possible. And then how can you not like have an amazing friendship if you both are willing to be open and just, tell each other everything. And then like respect each other, right? Like be sensitive and hold space.
I think what I was experiencing at the time was so shocking for me that in the past, I wouldn't have been that vulnerable, but it like blasted me wide open. It was so shocking that I couldn't even contain it all by myself, because I didn't even know what was happening. Like I couldn't intellectualize it. I couldn't process it and go through the normal channels of moving through things by myself in a very non-vulnerable way, because it was so overwhelming that it just forced me to surrender to that vulnerability and connecting like that. And last night, but what I was thinking when we were here together last night, it was like this moment in time here in 2021 went back and created us meeting in college. The moment of us meeting in college didn't actually happen first. It was this moment of joy that we experienced last night that went backwards in time and created us meeting. Like we decided from this moment here when we would meet, because time and space don't actually exist. It's all just awareness. So our awareness of that moment we experienced last night. That's what I decided. Are you still following me?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the kind of shit that I'm like, yeah, Jordan, you lost me like 3 words in. But that's true. Like, that's true for you. And like, I get kind of, but like, I know what you mean as far as like, we've just been friends all along. Like, it was friends all along. And it's just always felt like that. But even when I met you, even when we met, there was just a connection there. And I felt like maybe it was like a deja vu moment where like, you know, but as far as like, I don't know how all that stuff works, but I believe you. I think it's possible. I just don't like my brain. We'd have to get some serious psychedelic stuff from you to be able to really process that.
And this is just a Saturday morning for me thinking about
no, it's like a Tuesday afternoon like thought for you.
Tuesday tea.
Yeah.
Oh, this moment right here created the one X amount of years ago. So I think too, one of the things that bonded us, you had that calendar. It was the fridge calendar. It was like a feminist message a day that you would rip off. And this idea of feminism, I feel, has evolved for both of us. I don't know if it has for you. I feel like my quote-unquote idea of feminism in college was almost a type of like man-hating.
Yes.
In college. That was the way I had understood feminism, which I think is actually a very inverted type of feminism. where now I desire to see men in their kingship, in their masculine energy, and also women in their like queen energy, in their fully embodied self, and that creation of wholeness I think is more in line with feminism. But we both identified as like fierce feminism.
Oh,
fierce
yeah.
feminists, but
Yeah,
I
we
feel
were
like
we burn bras. It was like, we were 19.
I mean, I don't have any bras now, but
yeah.
so I mean, they haven't been burned.
Yeah.
But
when we were 19, that's what we thought feminism was. Like, screw guys, they suck. Boys, you boys are terrible.
Yeah.
We were like,
burn
we were
bras,
bras.
but I worked at Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But we thought we were. We didn't think that had anything to do with it. You were just getting a paycheck. Yeah, no. Yeah. It's different. It was different then too, you know, but it's way different now. And I think feminism for me, like you talk about like you wanting to see guys in his kingship. For me, it's like, it's not even about guys. Like for me, it's like all about women. Like it's about holding space for each other. That I feel like that's the biggest part of feminism is that, you know, like, do we hold space for each other? Because patriarchy sure doesn't. It doesn't. And so we're the only ones that can, I mean, okay, we can positive manifest that away. I get that. We can write that narrative. But like, it seems like there's that trend that like, we have to have each other's back before anybody else does. We have to believe in each other and our powers before anybody else does. And so, I mean, like, I remember like, I went into a job interview and a woman was interviewing me and I actually got nervous because I was like, this isn't going to go well. There's going to be like this, you know, and I tried to like, no, it is. But like the second like she got on, like I could just tell there was this tension, and that happens a lot with women, that there's this competitiveness that like there's only one spot at the top. And so, and for me to feel like that about another woman, I was like, this is where it's broken. Like, this is where we need to heal. Is just being like so supportive and holding space.
I do feel like, in terms, if you want to call it like patriarchy, society, culture has set up this narrative of women being in competition with each other.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's beneficial to make women competitive towards each other is because united, it would be full flex empowerment. And that supporting. And I mean, I'm human. I struggle with like jealousy and competition. But what I've really come to is this idea of there is no competition on the spiritual plane because all exists in infinite potentiality. So I was telling my nieces, there's two of them. I said, you're the most beautiful girl in the world, and your sister's the most beautiful girl in her world, and both exist and both is true.
Right.
And coming from that mindset, because that competitive mindset that's fed to us through patriarchy, through society, through culture, actually is coming from scarcity.
Yeah.
And
but there is no scarcity.
That you can't have it. And so shifting into this abundant mindset can actually bond women to be like, you can be completely beautiful and a goddess, and I can be completely beautiful and a goddess. And I, even from college though, I always said I want to be a rose in a rose bush instead of a rose among weeds, meaning like I'd rather have all my friends be blooming and be beautiful, because like a single rose amongst weeds isn't that wonderful. No. And there's no dig to weeds. I love weeds, you know, whatever. Yeah. But like, I hope you understand the analogy.
Yeah,
that
in case
I'm
any weeds are listening right now.
I don't want to.
In the world? There's no weeds listening. All of you are beautiful.
I don't want to offend
You're
any
all
weeds.
Beautiful
I don't
roses.
want to offend any weeds. Whatever. Sorry.
That's when you know sensitivity is too high. If we're like, just in case the weeds are listening. We'll be sensitive, you. Okay.
This is why you like you keep me grounded. Anyway, all that being said, is that I feel with women like there's enough room for all goddesses, like in the pantheon. Like there's enough room for everybody.
Yeah, there's enough space for all of us.
Yeah,
it's just how much we limit our own minds. You know, and that's where I think we have to have each other's back. And it's not easy, like you said. Like everyone has jealousy problems, everyone gets threatened, but we have to figure out a way to work through it and continuously work through it.
I feel, especially, I grew up in a larger family, and even within the culture that we were raised in, it was almost ingrained in it to have competition,
Yeah.
so it did breed undertones of jealousy itself, and in very weird and subtle ways. And that's jealousy's been something that I, as a quote unquote lower level emotion, I've been learning to honor and embrace, instead of just like acknowledging, hey, I don't have it. And not terms of like, I'm actually like always excited for other people to have things.
Yeah.
It's just that like, oh, I don't have it. And instead of sitting and like, oh, I don't have it, I've been like, I can get it. If this is refocusing the narrative, being like, if it's presenting, if this person's, doing this thing, accomplishing this thing, that means that this is within my realm of potentiality, because this person is in my realm of potentiality. So that means that I can hold the hope and the vision of obtaining that for myself. And switching that focus, switching that narrative from, this means it is possible for me, instead of like, if this person has it, doesn't mean I can't have it. It actually means it's possible for me because this person has achieved this. More of the idea of like the 4-minute mile. When one person gets like the 4-minute mile, then everybody gets the 4-minute mile. So reshifting that whole concept itself, I guess, is something.
Yeah, people, when they're succeeding, it dims your success, or makes you feel less than. But it's like, that's on their own journey. So whatever anybody else, even if you are very closely aligned as far as what you do for a living or what you want or your goals and dreams, it doesn't matter. It's their own journey. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter their successes, because those are theirs and bright for them, but they're separate from yours. So it has, there's no comparison, because none of us are the same. So, but it's really hard in the moment to like see other people maybe doing what you want to do, or succeeding in the things you thought you would, or whatever. But you have to just remind yourself, like, my journey's mine, their journey is theirs, and be happy for them. Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that you and I both do really well for each other, is to celebrate each other's like even minor victories. But because I feel like when something happens to you that's successful or good, it happened to me. That's how I feel, and I walk around like bragging to everybody. Like, I'm like, oh, my friend Summer did this, she did this, she's an amazing writer, she's like this, oh, she helped me with this, like all this kind of this energy embedded in it, and just celebrating each other's successes like that, and being able to use each other's strengths too, because you and I have different strengths with each other, and you've really helped me in so many ways.
Yeah, same.
Going back to this idea of vulnerability, and this is a super vulnerable share for me, but I started working on like core beliefs, meaning like, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I'm more than enough, I'm deserving. And sometimes when we shift our beliefs, we will have to purge, detox, deconstruct the old reality, and that can happen with our thoughts themselves, or it can happen physically. And something that happened physically for me is like, I experienced the worst breakout of my entire life. That happened when I started affirming, I'm worthy, I'm deserving, I'm good enough. So it was this physical embodiment of like,
it was an actual physical purge for you.
It was a physical purge. And I remember I was like, I can't polo you right now. I can't even be on polo. It was the first
time she ever did that.
I couldn't. And then it took a lot of courage for me to be like, get on polo, and to show you like what was going on for me. And then you just like came in with a fucking arsenal and were like sending me things and help and support, and that level of vulnerability. You just held space for that, and just opened up and expressed about, your own things, your own.
I had like the worst skin for like years, and so for me, I was like, it is the end of the world, it is. And like, I felt like that, like I knew, and I think we've all had moments where we're like, no one can see my face right now, like I cannot have anybody, even my, like, doesn't matter how much they say they love me or I think they love me. And so when you have those moments, to just still hold space for that friend, no matter what they're going through, And yeah, like whatever I could do to help you, like and when we're across the country from each other, so there's only so much I can do. I can't like bring you a basket full of stuff, you know?
Yeah, but like all these parcels started just like
I
coming
sent
in
her like a million things. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna help, but consumerism. Here's some products. Try them.
But also the ability to like see what is and to allow it to shift and to hold that space, because I was literally looking at myself in the mirror being like, my skin is clear and like flawless, and like crying when I was saying it, and I just thought it was gonna stay that way. And then eventually it like shifted, or the answers and the inspirations, the illumination will come to us as we make these declarations to what it is that we want to do with
and y'all, she did clear her skin. She did.
Yeah.
You cleansed everything out, and then now look at her. Look at
that. Well, you too, sweetheart.
Beautiful. This was Accutane. So no, yeah. This was medical, which I don't endorse, by the way. Like, that was my own journey, but I'm not going to take credit for manifesting it away.
You did, though. You did.
I didn't even know manifestation back then.
You've manifested everything in your reality your whole life. Okay, but I was going to say, here's the thing. Our manifestations will come in the path of least resistance.
Yes.
So,
and that was the path of least resistance.
That was the path of least resistance for you. And the path of least resistance for me was like,
doing what you need to do.
I figured out I was actually allergic to peanuts.
Yeah.
Who knew? But it was the path of least resistance to get the answer. So when you make a declaration of what it is that you want, the way that it will come to you is in alignment with your own thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions about how the world works or how the world operates or what's available to you. And then you'll have the inspiration and the answers to come to you. So in a way, like having Accutane for you was the perfect answer.
Yeah, it was.
And for me, the perfect answer was to give up peanuts and add zinc.
You did a bunch of things.
Well, I tried a lot of things, but those are the things that stick. But eventually you'll hit on the inspired answers and actions if you continue to persist in your declaration.
Yeah.
And that's like moving in life of the Wu way or the effortless way. You'll be guided to the people or the answers or a book or a website that will help to provide you with a way of fulfilling that desire. So I think sometimes people think when you say like manifest it, it's like, I'm just gonna, well, you can't literally sit back on the couch and affirm and things will be brought to you. But
you deserve it.
Because you deserve it
right now.
You won't have to lift a fucking finger.
No.
That is true.
It's true.
But when you take actions, inspired actions, you won't even feel like you're taking inspired actions. It'll just be natural. It'll just be natural. And in a way, when you have your thoughts and beliefs and assumptions are in the negative, you'll be taking quote unquote inspired actions to fulfill your worst fears.
Yeah.
And like that was like, there was some shit that happened, you know, while I was going through my divorce, that it was like, I don't know how I'm like being led to uncover this stuff, but it was coming from my own beliefs, like moving me along a path of least resistance to manifest my worst fears.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to start to shift your thoughts and beliefs and assumptions so that you can be on the effortless path, the Wu Wei path of inspired action towards your faith instead of your fears.
Yeah. And I don't think it's an all-encompassing thing either. I feel like it's bite-sized. Like, especially like each of our journeys, like we would go along and we'd be like, whoa, we hit a roadblock. Like, this is a huge thing. And then you work through that. Like, you don't work on your like whole being at once. It's like you hit a roadblock and you're like, hey, why is this resistance here? Why am I so self-conscious? Or why is this so horrific for me? Or why does this feel uncomfortable? Mm-hmm. And then you work through that, and then you keep going till you hit the next one. And then as you hit each one and work through each one, then, you know, you become, that's becoming the whole thing. But you can't just like, at least for me, mm-hmm. I feel like it's not like I am. It's like, well, I'm going to just go along my day until I hit a really shitty roadblock, and then I'm going to work through it. And it'll make me better. Like, you know, because that's all you can do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I feel like that with you, too. Like, you just went around, and like and every day it was something different. Even like I feel like every day we hit roadblocks, every hour even, you know, and no roadblocks too small, like your skin. Like some people would be like, that's so materialistic, or that's not important, or you're being like vain. No, it's not. Like if it's important to you, if it affects you that much, it's important, and you need to treat it like with a lot of importance and with a lot of like reverence, and work through it and figure it out. And if you're a friend of someone, and if you feel like whatever they're going through is trivial, it's not, because it's not to them, so it shouldn't be for you either, if that makes sense. Just hold that space.
I think a few things. One of the things I've been saying a lot is like I give myself grace, and I was getting frustrated with myself because I wasn't where I wanted to be, and then I started to look back about where I came from. And I think I told you this analogy, like I've been shoveling out this big pile of coal, and it's not all the way gone, but instead of looking at how little is left, I keep looking at like how much there was shoveled. You know, like and focusing instead on this, oh, look how much progress I've made towards what it is that I desire. And what you were saying about there's no, if it's important to somebody, it's an important desire. There's no such thing as a false desire. And I feel in some ways we almost,
or an unimportant one. You know what I mean? Just all of them are important if it's important to someone.
Well, it's really strange having this dichotomy between society wanting to consumer and materialism and always being in the state of desire, and then at the same time feeling shamed for having desires.
Right.
And most of my desires aren't even like objects or things. They're just like things within myself that I want. Or even like life path things that people want. If they want to look a certain way, or have a job, or a relationship, or a family, or a new home, and not looking at those things is inherently wrong for us to desire it, because
it's okay to desire whatever it is you want to desire. I think that's okay, because then again, what are you gonna do? Shame yourself? You gonna shame yourself? Are you gonna shame people? Like, hey, that works. That's worked so well for us. It's really worked out.
Yes.
You know? I think actually desire is a good thing, and sometimes I feel like we're shamed for desire, but like, what's wrong with wanting things? Aren't we? We're deserving of like whatever it is we want, whether it's materialistic or not. You know?
And then like, allowing for like contentment in the moment, knowing that everything is whole as it is, while still holding this other possibility. And that's something I've had to kind of find the balance between, and you've witnessed that like on the daily, with like just wanting to be at this certain place in my life, but still enjoying where I am at. And some of my desires have really caused me to actually ascend and to push through a lot of limits in my own mind.
Definitely. In
pursuit of that desire. And so, you know, no matter what it is, I think it's important to support our friends and their desires, because it's going to change them and help them ascend into the best version of themselves. And I remember when like we were talking back in the fall, and you're like, you know, if this was me, I would want this too. And you're like, you just gave me your full support to pursue something that seemed completely impossible in the moment. And I don't know what it was like for you as a friend, but I'm sure you were just like, okay.
I mean, there's been things and you told me you want, and I'm like, I don't get it, but like, I want you to get it. Like, I really do. And that's the thing, is that I feel like sometimes, like, you don't think it's good for your friend, you know, or if you don't think it's the right path for them, or your friend, or whoever it is, you know, then you limit them by saying like, no, do it a different way, or I don't agree with that. And it's like, you know, like, you have to let people go on their own paths. Obviously, like, if it's dangerous, you know, like physically dangerous or bad, then no, you know. But like, you know, like, I don't know, like, I think it's kind of magical to watch people have their own beliefs and their own things, and let them go for it. Like, let them do it, you know, because we're very different. Like, we're very different. you're otherworldly, like, and I'm worldly, like, you know? And so I love getting to see what you want to do and your desires and your goals and how you go about getting them. And I'm just so supportive in wanting you to do that, you know? Whether it's makes even sense to me. Sometimes I'm like, I cannot follow you, but I totally believe in you. Like, I go, do it.
You go, Glen Coco.
Yes.
I think that also comes down to the trust we have in our relationship. And I feel when you trust yourself more, you also trust other people's authentic desires. Like, they know themselves the best. Like, I can't sit here and be like, Summer, you should do all, like, the desires that I want to do. No, like, those desires are meant for me. The way that I live my life is meant for me. And what I can do to be the best friend I can for you is to support you in the fulfillment of your desires that are authentic to you.
Yes.
Instead of trying to impose
your belief system.
My belief system. My subconscious desire. Because I believe the desires come from the higher self and the super conscious, and that they're a gift. They're a gift from infinite intelligence in order for us to transform. So your desires are coming to you in the way that will motivate you towards transformation. Like, and it's going to be different. Like, you know, I want certain things, like, but maybe you want a Tesla. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a Tesla, but, like, I'm really happy with my Subaru.
She wants to ride a unicorn to work, and I want a Tesla. Like, but it's the same. We both get to work.
It's the same. Yeah, no, I'll move mountains to be able to ride that unicorn.
Yeah, you will.
And you would move mountains to drive
Absolutely.
Tesla.
Mountains of money.
So, anyway.
I don't own a Tesla. Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, because we're
coming.
gonna manifest it. I believe in it though. I'm not.
I know, but
I really do. But when I catch myself saying something negative to Jordan, I'll instantly right after be like, "But I'll manifest it," because I know she'll be like, "No, Summer, you can make anything your possible reality." And I'm like, I know, but that's why she's so good. That's why she's so good for me, because she's reminded me that, like, oh no, you really can change. And that's, like, when she's talked about, like, we've both been there for each other, that's what she's been for me, is that you really have to, like, stop your mind from, like, saying these negative things. You have to stop limiting yourself. And that, like, blew my mind. Like, that's how you changed me. And that's how our friendship has been reciprocal, is that you have, like, made me realize, like, anything's possible, and stop, like, negative talk, and, like, reform your life with your thoughts. Because no one talks about that at book club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not that wasn't covered in, like when we were growing up, you know. No. This is a brand new concept, and it's, like, beautiful and amazing. And it's true. It's true. I've used what Jordan has told me, and, like, what her example in your life, and I've used those things in my life, and they've completely changed my life. I mean, truly changed my life. Yeah.
Well, you truly changed my life too.
Yeah.
Don't think I'm making fun of it,
because I am a believer.
I love how you always call it positive manifesting. You're like, a positive manifest that shit. A positive manifest that shit. And, like, just, like, every time you followed me that, I am always, like, giggling.
I
know. But remember, it was really interesting because I sent you something. I pull out, and I was, you know, obviously very excited. And I was like, Summer, our parents lied to us.
Yes.
We can have, this was last year, I was like, we can have anything that we want. We just have to manifest it and call it into existence and not give up on it and trust the universe. And then it was really interesting because just a few weeks ago, I was in a particular place and not feeling particularly trusting or faithful. I was having a lot of doubts and resistance come up. And then you were like, I just found this quote. So, like, that thing about the time-space continuum, it's almost sometimes you in the past or in the future, wherever you want to think of it, implant certain messages for yourself that will be retrieved at the moment that you need it. And infinite intelligence, God, universe, great mystery, archangels, awareness, whatever you want to call it, knows when to deliver those messages to you. Yeah. And in a way, I created you and you created me because we knew that we'd be wanting to deliver these messages to each other.
Yeah.
As an external, like.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things where Jordan, she had said something so beautiful and I wrote it down, and I happened to be on that Word document that day. And I was like, listen to this quote that you said. It's so powerful. And I read it off to you on Polo. And it was like the words she needed to hear that day. And so it was just so funny. I mean, you just explained it in a very magical way. But essentially, you gave me advice that I've been able to share back to you. And it was just like this, like, that's what I think friendship is, right? It's like really listening, really taking it in, and then reminding each other, you know. But yeah, it was so good because the world and our parents did lie to us in essence, in that we were told like we have limits and there's boundaries and we have to think a certain way and be a certain way and look a certain way. But that's not true. It's all a lie. And we get to create our own truths, and we get to create, you know, our own life. And that's what's so exciting, is that it's like, oh, it was a lie. We can do whatever we want. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk to, if it's okay, what we talked about in terms of like, so relationship has been the self-concept that I've been working through.
Yeah.
And health has been more of the self-concept that you've been working through.
And by concept, it means I'm like an extreme hypochondriac. But I'm not going to define myself like that. But
it's okay. That
we'll go ahead and summarize it for like the viewers. Okay.
But we were these beautiful mirrors for each other to provide that, because my health body self-concept has been something that I've shedded and transformed through yoga for now a decade.
It's like a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So it's, I didn't always have that, but I have this perspective. And then like you had the opposite perspective to be able to kind of pull me through as far as like relationships
and worthiness.
Yes.
Yeah, and worthiness of love.
And she said, I thought it was so sweet one time you told me, you're like, every day when I just think about you and positive manifest, I just want Jordan to know she's worthy. I just want Jordan to know she's worthy.
Yeah.
And you told that to me several months ago, and I feel like it actually took the embodiment, the feeling of it took a few months for me. Well, maybe a few years to actually be like, oh no, I am worthy exactly as I am here and now, and that there's nothing wrong with me. And when I was dancing in the park on Thursday before I came to pick you up, I was just just naturally Thursday evening dancing in the park. I was just like dancing and just thinking to myself, there's nothing wrong with me. I offer myself grace. Yeah. And I feel that's been the fundamental thing that society, religion, parents unintentionally, like, you know, that there's something wrong with us, that we're constantly need to fix something about ourselves, perfect something about ourselves. And it's not to say that we shouldn't strive towards certain things, but also to hold in this moment here that there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, that you deserve it right now.
And regarding the hypochondriac thing, you know, because you're like, my body's like this, like you.
I do. I believe I'm dying nearly every day.
and then
I will start with like one pain, and by the end of the day, I'm terminal and planning my funeral.
No.
It's really bad. I'm not going to define myself in that way, but that I'm just telling you the truth. I'm just telling you what happened.
I know.
And same with Jordan, is that you go on these journeys in your mind about how much she's worthy, or how much you're desired or loved, or how much you deserve to be loved. And for me, I feel like I would just came with this like natural thing, like women deserve everything. Men are so lucky, or partners are so lucky to have us. Bow down. Like, it's never been you, of course you're worthy for who you love.
Yeah.
Crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, of course your body's fine. You know?
I'm
sorry if I used the word crazy. I'm sorry if that was so triggering for someone. Seriously. Sorry.
Sorry to the weeds too.
Yeah. But the crazy thing was, I didn't mean to use that word, so I'm sorry if that triggered. But you know what I mean? Like, we both kind of have our things, and we both kind of go back and forth and try to balance each other out with our strengths. and we kind of help fill it, fill in the blanks for each other, fill in those
I've
spaces.
literally said to you though, like before, I'm like, Summer, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. You're in my reality. Like, one
day, and I'm
sorry. This is one day you were like going on spiral, like.
You can tell them what I said, whatever it is I said. It's bizarre, I'm sure.
I hope it's okay.
Go ahead, say it.
But you were like around
We're all friends.
You were like, I'm not going to be here around Christmas.
I did. I thought I was dying at Christmas. I thought I was going to die and not be able to see my children open up presents.
I know. I don't know. It's really dark. And
it was very dark. But it really was. I mean, we can laugh about it now because I'm alive. I live.
But I was like, stop the fuck with that. Like, you're in my reality. And I've been saying everybody in my reality is safe and healthy. And I was like, do you think this head witch bitch is going to let you die like that? No. Like, I'm going to keep you safe. But we talked about finally, like, you were affirming all this stuff, like, my body's like this, my body's like this. And I was like, no, Summer, like, the underlining all these physical things are the embodiment of a feeling or a belief of lack of safety.
Yes, which I never felt safe, like, emotionally or physically growing up. And so that was huge, like, revelation for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, I did never feel safe. So now that I'm out of that environment, I still don't feel safe, and I'm creating these, you told me this, I'm creating these situations that
and it was the same for me too, in terms of relationships. Leaving my marriage, I didn't feel safe anymore, and it wasn't necessarily that belief didn't necessarily happen growing up. It created that trauma in that situation there. And then I was experiencing other situations where I was trying to get safety outside of me, but it had to be created inside of me first.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I intentionally started doing before I'd go to, like, when I'd fall asleep at night, I would just be monitoring, like, safe, 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 safe.
Yeah.
Until I would fall asleep, impressing that into my subconscious. And so it's interesting that this lack of safety embodied itself for you and I in different areas, but definitely. It was the same underlying belief, which, I'm not safe. And implanting, I am safe. I'm safe in my body. I'm safe to be, mine was like, I'm safe to be loved, because I came out of a situation that was like, oh, I was loved, and that was really unsafe.
Right.
And so I'm safe to be loved. I'm safe in my body, and how that fundamental belief can change thousands, if not millions, of thoughts.
Yeah.
And that was in the fall. I started to do like safe, 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 and fall asleep. And then later on, you're like, all these years of therapy and all this stuff, and like, you just hit it on the head about but we were mirroring back the same belief of being unsafe, but it was manifesting in different ways.
Yeah.
So
anyway. I think, and here's the thing is, like, you never made me feel dumb and I recognize, and even as I say it, I recognize this sounds very irrational as I'm going to explain to you my health concerns for today, but she never made me feel dumb. You never made me feel dumb or like it wasn't important, because you knew it was important to me. You knew it was real. It felt real to me. And instead of focusing on that, you focused on solutions. You focused on how to help me pull myself out, instead of just telling me that's not going to happen. You're crazy. Instead you helped me see around it. You helped me see the root of it, right? Instead of just trying to, shut it down. But it's like, no, actually, usually when you have those things, there's like deep roots that you need to go down in. You need to pull them out. You need to work through it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's how, like, that's why good friendship works, is because whatever it is you're dealing with, like, honor it and give it space and help them work through it.
And I think you helped me to identify, like, worthy, like, that's your root, like, get down to it. And like you said, good friendship is really being authentic with each other. It takes a lot of courage to speak as openly as we do with each other, but that's because I literally want you to have the most limitless life, and I know you want me to have the most magical life ever.
I do. And limitless.
And limitless. Well, both. Yes, of course. Yes, and.
Yes, and.
But it comes that courage, that trust, that bravery to speak to each other in such a vulnerable and authentic ways, because like I fucking love you so much, and I'm not going to allow you to stay in this cycle just so I can protect my ego or fear of you rejecting what I'm going to say right now. And we've had like, we really haven't had like major disagreements, but we've like definitely not seen eye to eye.
Or I've said stuff and you're like, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. Where you're like, I didn't agree with that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well. That one poll, you're like, what if this is what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, and she did. She came back and said, that doesn't feel like authentic to me. That doesn't feel real. And I wasn't offended. I was like, okay, I felt bad. Like, I was like, okay, I'm really sorry. Like, but I was also grateful that you knew yourself and you were able to like push back at me and be like, and that's not it. Like, dead end. And I loved that.
Also, I feel like when you're working to a particular desire, the people closest to you, I don't like using the word quote unquote trigger. They're going to provide moments of contrast so you can gain clarity.
Sure.
So when you said that, I was like, this is so abnormal for her to say this. Like, why would she be saying this? And I took it as like, oh, it's because Jordan, she's providing this contrast for you because you don't think you can get exactly what you want. And I almost had to come back to you saying no, because you were reflecting that part of my belief system that said no, that you were reflecting, all you were doing were reflecting back my doubts about that I couldn't get exactly what I want. And I literally had to be like, I had to tell you no, because I was telling the part of myself, no, I don't agree with that. Like, my word is final.
Yeah. And it wasn't offensive to me when you told me no, because I was like, okay, like I trust you so much. And I was like, hey,
Well, and the same thing too on one of your own manifestations too, because I hold this vision of you in one way, and you're like, well, I need to do this, and I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, but I want you to make the promise that while you do this thing, you're still gonna be holding the vision to this thing, and it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It's not the ending. It's just a stepping stone. That it's vanquishing the obstacles. It's gonna actually make it easier for you to pursue this. Oh, it's not the end all be all desire, but this like really deep, like heartfelt desire.
Yeah.
And we just catch each other like when we're
I think it's because we're not scared to I don't want to say like I can't think of the word, but like we're not afraid of confrontation. Like we're not afraid of it, because it's just like, no, this is how I feel, or no, this is who I am, or no, that's wrong, and it's like, it's okay, great then.
Yeah.
Who cares, Yeah. I feel like that's how siblings a lot of times get along and can stay together for a long period, because like you're not afraid of that conflict, and saying how you feel, but we get so scared with each other to do it, then we don't, and or we take it like get offended, and you can't get offended. Life is way too short to walk around offended. Like, you just can't,
Well, if you think about the word, like, I think you and I don't have conflicts. We have confrontations, which means to confront, to face. So between the portal of us, like, we face. I'm not facing you. I'm facing myself through you, and you're facing yourself through me. And like, we created each other because this higher self in us wanted us to rise. So you came in and I came in these two different ways to be both guides for each other and friends and companions. And that confront, to face, conface, is to actually provide contrast and then clarity as you move along the path. And so our friends and our loved ones closest to us are going to sometimes create contrast and clarity for us, because it's a catalyst. It's not a trigger, it's a catalyst for our growth. And so you've been a fundamental catalyst for me to keep me going as well, and just
that's
like shining in the darkness for me.
I feel like that's a beautiful way of thinking about it, as a catalyst, you know, instead of a trigger. Because a lot of times we shut down because we're like, that's a trigger for me, and you shut down instead of thinking about it in a way that it's like, wait a minute, why is this triggering me? And as soon as you ask that question, that trigger becomes a catalyst instead of a trigger. And then suddenly you're on a movement to somewhere that's going to really take you somewhere, as opposed to a lot of times when you have a trigger, you shut down and you don't go anywhere, you know. And not to say that that's going to happen, because I'm triggered all day, you know, triggered all day long. But it's when you stop and say why, then that you take the trigger's power away and you turn it into something that can be a creation.
Well, and to have the deep level of soulship that we have, it's this container of friendship and trust, so that we move through that together. Where I feel there's this idea of separateness in a lot of relationships where, oh, you triggered me and you have to do something, you have to apologize. Instead, it's like we actually come together even more deeply in those moments to guide each other through it.
Right.
And that is a level of connection and intimacy and friendship that I know most people don't have. And I feel so lucky to have, not like you're one of my best friends, but I have so many and I've been walking around for months being like, why do I have the most magical friendships? Why do I have the most magical friendships? And but to actually come together even more fully in those moments to guide each other, because we really want each other to ascend.
Yes.
In whatever way that it is. So, yeah.
And I think that that's possible for a lot of people. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about how like they don't have any good girlfriends, you know, or they don't feel close to anyone. And I think, you know, it's just about finding a person, not girlfriends, it could be any friend, right? Just finding a person where you start being vulnerable, and you'll find out they want to be vulnerable too, but you just have to kind of help knock each other's walls down, and then make a pact that you're going to be there for each other thick and thin. And instead of getting offended, you know, if you get offended, like tell each other, just talk about it. You know,
well, and it took a lot.
And I know I'm minimizing that. I know that is a huge. It
actually
journey.
took a lot. I mean, I thought I had a quote unquote good marriage, and then when I look back and reflect, I'm like, oh, this was definitely not particularly healthy.
Not good.
Well, okay, but I love you, and
she's gonna spend it so beautifully, but I just want to start pulling out knives.
And,
go ahead, baby.
But no, I can't even. But to actually be vulnerable with you about like some of the because we were almost raised in a culture where you don't talk about that shit.
No. Yeah. Well, and I think just generally, like talking about your marital problems, that's so bad, because then it signifies you failed, right? Somehow you are failing. And that's not the case. Like a marriage is just a relationship, and if you're not failing in some way, then you're probably not. You know what I mean? Like it's okay to have problems. It's okay to have a lot of problems. Like talk about it.
I think what you really helped me to do was to create a new identity for myself, because I was raised in a religion that really emphasized like marriage and children, and now I was completely out of that religious system. I was no longer married and I didn't have any children, so the constructs by what my identity had at early stages of life and created, it just were like ripped out. So it was like, where's my, what you were saying, worth, where's my worth? And that was the beauty when you were like, just go and body and haunt the 19-year-old self.
Yeah. And
because I feel like at 19 I was very much in this pure identity. Maybe it was not my most polished or refined or like mature, but it was a very pure identity. Yeah. And so combining the wisdom of where I am now with that pure identity, and then creating this new idea, because the institutions or the ways or the identity that I had created my worth was gone immediately, like really quickly. And I feel like that is sometimes the harder part of moving out of a relationship is not the relationship itself, but the recreation of yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes finding whoever you were before that event happened or that relationship happened, like sometimes you have to just go back because you know that person, you were that person, so going back to that and trying to just channel that until you can heal, you know, and that's what's so beautiful is you're still giving to yourself in a different, you know, even, you know, decade sometimes.
So we're running close to time. Are there any final thoughts that you want to say?
I mean, I didn't like prepare a speech or anything. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think it's just, you know, if whoever's watching this, if you feel like you don't have good friendships, you know, or, you know, you feel like you're not getting there, like, believe that you're worth, you can have good friendships or relationships. Believe that, like, that's not your identity. That's not your, you know, your whole, you know, that doesn't have to be, continue to be your story. That you can find good friendships and relationships and believe that you're worthy. Seriously, believe that you're worthy because you really, really are. You really are. And whoever told you you weren't, even if it was your own brain, it's wrong.
Fuck that part
it's
of your
wrong.
brain.
Because you are. Yes. And the world will be so much brighter and more colorful when you realize your worth. Yeah. And it's a daily process, by the way. Yeah, for sure. Because I'll wake up in the morning and I'm like, what are we going to do with this all day? But yeah, you know, that's how I feel.
Yes.
Yeah, Jordan, say something. Say something
no,
really wise.
That's beautiful. You are worthy. Yeah, when you told me that in the pool, every day I just think, make Jordan know that she's worthy.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. So thank you for your beautiful friendship and your light and your star in the darkness. And like Summer, isn't she just sunshine?
And not all the time, but sometimes.
You gotta
look at that negative
but
self-talk.
you gotta have a little bit of a solar flare sometime. I mean, it makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the best, Jordan.
All right, I love you.
What do you say? I love you.
I value you.
I value you.
I accept you.
We accept you. I accept you.
We are limitless.
We are limitless.
So mote it be as I speak it, I create it.
So mote it be, I speak it.
I create it.
I create it.
So with a kiss.
So with a kiss.
Bye.